Hey guys, so today we're doing a comparison between these two ice cream makers here. On the left we have the KUMIO ice cream maker, and on the right we have the ice cream maker by the brand Cuisinart. So I have a few different categories to compare these two on and help you decide which is the best for you. So the first category we're going to look at is the time it takes. So the main difference here is that the KUMIO one doesn't have to be pre-frozen. Whenever you want ice cream, you can go make it. Versus the Cuisinart here, this internal chamber here, this has to be in the freezer for at least 24 hours before you're able to actually make ice cream. It has to be frozen, so you either have to kind of pre-plan it out, or if you're like me, I just leave this in the freezer whenever it's not in use, so whenever I do want ice cream, I can go get some. But that can be a downside, you know, if you don't have freezer space to be able to leave it in there, you really have to pre-plan when you're making ice cream. So for that part, I think the KUMIO is the winner. Really, you don't just have to pre-plan anything, which is just a lot more convenient. In terms of time it takes to make the actual ice cream, they both take about 30 minutes or so, which is pretty good. Not a whole lot of time considering you're making ice cream pretty much from scratch. So we can't really say there's a clear winner with that. I will say that the KUMIO though, once it reaches the correct internal temperature, it'll turn off and just leave it cooling so that it doesn't melt again, while the Cuisinart doesn't have that feature. So you really just have to keep an eye on it and turn it off whenever it's the consistency that you want. The KUMIO, if it's going to take less than 30 minutes, it'll tell you it'll turn off, versus a Cuisinart, you might get stuck with some pretty frozen solid ice cream. The next category we're going to look at is the ease of use. These are both pretty easy to figure out how to use. It's not too difficult. The Cuisinart here, we have the base that has the electricity going through it, the actual can that you're going to put your ingredients in, two more pieces here, a lid and a spinner. These just go together and then go on top and get spun into place. All you have to do to use this, plug it in and hit this on-off switch. There's no other buttons you can hit, so that's super, super easy. KUMIO has a few more buttons, a few more pieces. So it has the actual part connected to electricity here. The cup that you put your ice cream in slides right into there. Then this part here, you have your motor here, and then it has a kind of plastic covering over top of it. That just clicks into place. And then you also have a spindle with this one that just gets plugged in right there. Put this in, turn it to the locked mode, and then you're ready to go. This one though has a few different buttons. The power button obviously turns it on. This button here helps you select the mode. So for example, that one's the yogurt mode. If you're gonna do ice cream, not frozen yogurt, click it again, it moves over. Not super hard to figure that one out either. And then of course the start and stop button here. The Cuisinart might be a little bit easier if you're willing to keep track of it a little bit more. The Cuisinart really only has one button, but on the other hand, you do have to keep track of what you're making and how long it needs to blend, and you gotta make sure it's not getting too cold. Versus the KUMIO, it has a few more steps along the way, but then it also takes out some of the work for you by churning in a specific way for yogurt, in a specific way for ice cream, and then stopping whenever it knows it's done. Depending on how you look at it, they're both pretty simple, but Cuisinart might take a little bit less effort. Next category we have is the mix-in distribution. If you want to add mix-ins into the KUMIO, it's a little bit difficult because you have to kind of take this lid off, pull it out. A lot of times the spindle gets stuck in there. And then you have to put it back in, close it up, and restart it. It's not super easy, and I don't feel like it gets ingredients super mixed in. Versus a Cuisinart one, you just pour them right in the top here, then they kind of get cycled through as it's churning. So I think for mix-ins, the Cuisinart is a little bit better. I don't think either of them get mix-ins super well distributed, but the Cuisinart definitely does a lot better than the KUMIO. So for that reason, the mix-ins go to the Cuisinart. Next category we have is texture. So I'm going to show you a side-by-side comparison of the scoops of the same ice cream recipe that I used. I would say they're pretty equal. They both are nice and creamy, the perfect ice cream consistency. I think it depends more on what you're putting in it than the actual machine, because when given the same ingredients, they both came out really great. Our last category that we have here is the ease of cleaning. So the KUMIO easily takes the cake in this category. With this one, you simply detach the spindle, remove the motor part, and take out the pail. And these three parts here, the pail, the cover, and the spindle, can all just go right in the dishwasher. So it literally takes 2 minutes to get them clean. Versus over here, while these two parts, the cover and the spindle, are machine washable, the internal compartment here is not, so you have to hand wash that, which I don't like doing. I hate hand washing things. It's a lot more time consuming. So for that reason, the KUMIO easily wins this category. So overall, personally for me, the KUMIO is my favorite. I think it's quicker, easier to clean, and has a little bit more user-friendly settings. But if you're the kind of person who is going to be planning these things out, who wants a lot of mix-ins, and wants a little bit more ice cream volume, then the Cuisinart is probably a better option.